Hello, hello, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, wherever I sent this live broadcast. Beth Granger here. I'm a trainer, consultant, and speaker on the topic of unleashing the power of LinkedIn and networking. And I have an incredibly special guest today. And by the way, I am not set up to use my noise canceling, so I'm hoping the fan from my computer is not making it too noisy. I'm hearing it. Hopefully you're not. My guest today is Rachel Oz. She is many things. She's a psychologist, an author, an artist, a clothing ambassador, but most special to me, she is my cousin. Welcome, Rachel. So
Thank
great to have
you.
you.
So great to be here.
It's wild. We were just saying before we went live, we reconnected after many years, and it's just so fabulous to have done so. In fact,
Yes.
I think we should share this photo that I found.
Yeah.
So to prove to you that we've known each other for many years,
Yes.
this is a picture we're trying to figure out. We don't know where it's taken, but I'm the one that's looking annoyed, and Rachel's in the middle,
Yeah.
and my brother's there, and both of our moms are there, and it's just such a wonderful thing to look back and see that time.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's so meaningful, the whole lifetime of knowing a human.
Uh, it's true. It's true.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we have so many things. You're involved in so many different things that
Mhm.
um, one of the things we were talking about when we decided to go live together is this has been a crazy year, right?
Yes.
So stressful. So just, you never could have imagined something like this happening in the world. What do we do? What do we do to, you know, we feel like we're sort of through it, things are getting better, but
Yeah.
this stress that we've all been building up over the past year.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love to think about in the stress of all this, like how we tend to that and to ourselves. And one of the things I've really thought about is that the higher our stress level gets, sometimes we don't increase to meet it our level of self-care. We kind of keep
Mm.
doing, because we're habitual creatures, we kind of keep doing the level of self-care we're used to, but don't maybe either sort of increase it and make more, or just adjust at like some different self-care. And so that is something, in my private practice, talking with clients when it's applicable, that I'll sometimes highlight, that, oh my heavens, there's so much more stress. And so what are you doing to kind of meet that? And so that's one thing. And the other overall thing about that is that I heard this, that um, everything is difficult and everything is possible. And it just is this, like, oh my gosh, all right, I can somehow rise to meet this, that I have this capacity in me. And I just think there's all kinds of things we could talk about ways to take care of ourselves.
Well, you know what's interesting? Ooh, we're
Mhm.
getting a little bit of an echo. Let me,
Okay.
hopefully that not, but something I was thinking about when somebody very close to me was ill. Everybody kept
Mm.
saying to me, "Oh, you have to practice self-care. You have to practice self-care." People say that, but
Mhm.
the question I had, and that
Yeah,
maybe people who are joining us either live or on replay, and if you're live, feel free to comment, ask questions, and
please.
on replay as well.
Yeah,
But what does that mean? What
yeah.
actions are
Right,
self-care?
right,
Literally, what does
exactly.
that
And
mean?
so there's I started to think about what are some things just to share that may be a teeny bit off the grid, or ones that we don't always think about. And one of the things that I had heard is that, like, this Arctic explorer speaking of going through a stressful circumstance, right? Like in this freezing, icy, crazy place, that what he talked about is that when stress is at its more peak, how important our routines are. Even simple things like hygiene, sleep, eating, and that it becomes actually an issue of survival.
Wow.
And so I thought, all right, we may not always be as extreme as those circumstances, but goodness, we really have been facing some survival. Knowing people who've even died from COVID, or just loved ones who've been terribly sick, or just ourselves being afraid of, will I survive this and be okay? And so the concept of routine becomes really important,
Wow.
or at least to reevaluate, are my routines serving me well? So I think that is an important thing. Sometimes creativity can actually be incredible self-care. I've heard it said that creativity cures meaninglessness, and sometimes in these what seem like almost Groundhog Days, like the same thing over, right, in the pandemic especially. And so to add more meaning, creativity, and Beth, you could maybe even help me think about that. Like, so many things can be creativity, right? Gardening.
Well,
I don't
speaking of
know.
which,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out why I'm getting that echo, but two things that I think about that you might not think of as creativity, but
yeah.
So I've found that during this past year, I have found a much better work-life balance. I used to spend so much time commuting on the train, in the car, and when I didn't have that,
yes,
I didn't fill that time in with work. I really took time, and I love to cook, but I used to not cook. I was too tired by the end of the day. Now I'm so enjoying cooking, and so that's creativity. It's just
big
not
time.
Yeah.
Yes, I completely concur about that. And yes, there's so many ways to be creative. And so I just want to really emphasize that that's a great thing. And another thing is that I've realized out of this year, and I don't know about you, but I've realized now that over a year has gone by, of working from home and all of this, is that I have gained some weight. And I've become a little more, like, less mindful about my eating and movement. And part of that is just out of stress and reaching for comfort. And some of it is just like I've become less, everything's sort of within reach and just different things. And I had heard some physicians say that on average, that many of us are gaining 2 to 3 pounds a month through this.
Ooh,
right. So I just personally, just to share this with everyone, in the last month, have said, all right, I'm going to become more mindful about taking care of me. And for me, what made sense is to address my nutrition and exercise first. And so I now have a recumbent bike that kind of leans back, and I get on that in the morning and then before work. And I know some people prefer to do that later in the day. Everyone has different rhythms, or lunch. And the other thing is I began this Noom app. I'm not advertising it. I'm just, because it just has helped me structure and learn more about health and, just all kinds of things, and be more accountable about it. And so that combination is feeling so good. And I'm getting some walks in too, because it's getting nicer outside. I'm in Minnesota. So that's been beautiful. And then speaking of getting outside for self-care, like, how many people love nature and fresh air, and or taking a walk that's not your regular walk. But I'm going to give myself also a walk near this area that's, lovely. Like, I'm worth going out of my way for, right? I don't know if you have any.
I need to be
Walking.
outside.
Yeah.
Especially we were cooped up because of COVID. We were also cooped up because of those of us that are in climates where there's a winter.
Exactly.
And to be able to get outside has it's good for my soul.
Yes.
I know for me, I really like being near water. So if I'll take a walk down by the harbor or something like that, that's very good for me.
Yes.
I know the allergy season's right now, but the masks help with that, right? You're not breathing in as much of the pollen. And again, if you're joining us live, if you have something that you do for self-care or a question, please definitely put it in the chat in whichever platform you're joining us from.
That would be fantastic.
And something you said earlier about having routines. I was going to say, so the fact that I took quite a long nap yesterday at the end of the day after my last call is perhaps a good thing. I listened to my body and what my body needed.
Yes, that rest, right?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Another thing I'll just throw out that's also research, that has some research behind it, is keeping a gratitude practice. That people who just jot down, 3 to 5 things, at the end or beginning of the day that they're grateful for in the day, or practice gratitude self-talk. Like when things happen, just quietly in my own head, like, oh, I'm so thankful, or write like thank you notes or texts to people that they're just appreciating. So research shows that people who regularly practice gratitude have a greater sense of well-being and happiness.
Wow.
So that gratitude could be thought of as self-care.
That's really interesting, because I don't think people would automatically think of that.
Yes. And a couple, just a couple, outside of the box things that people may not think of is if anxiety in the needed self-care is higher. If you have an ice pack at home or a bag of frozen peas or something like that, to literally put it over your face, over the sinuses, because what ends up happening is just like if you've ever jumped into super cold water, and you may find that it slows your body down. You start going, at one time I did this, I was in really cold water in a lake, and I found that my movement literally started slowing down. I thought I better get out of the water. So what happens with the ice is it slows down your system. And when our system is more slowed down and calmed, you can't feel anxious at the same time.
Interesting.
So in terms of self-care, if anxiety is getting higher, that can be kind of a quick thing. And then just a couple other, things that can be really great self-care if feeling a little anxious. And I'm bringing up anxiety because of this year being more stressful for all of us, is chanting elongating vowel sounds, A-E-I-O-U. So A, or you can stay with one vowel or mix them up. And also just breath work, right? Like just simply either being aware of the breath and being with that mindfully for a few minutes, or doing something called 4x4 square breathing, which is breathing in 2, 3, 4, hold it 2, 3, 4, breathe out 2, 3, 4, hold it 2, 3, 4, and repeat.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's just a few self-care things.
That is wonderful. And I think it's really good to know some of these things, because like I said, sometimes you hear that, but what does that mean? Does that mean
right?
And so to have those specific things that you can try is wonderful.
Yeah.
I do want to change direction slightly. I think this has been incredibly helpful. But I'm curious about, you're an author, you're an artist. How did that happen? How did you go from, I think creativity runs in our family, seriously.
Uh-huh.
So
Yes.
I understand that. But what
Yes.
led you to write and illustrate the books
Yeah.
that you've written?
Thank you for asking. I mean, I think first when I was a young girl, I really liked writing and I liked drawing. It just naturally was an interest, and so there's also a full circle to that. Like I always think sometimes I'm growing up, but also I think I'm growing back into the wisdom that I knew as a little girl, right? Like purely. So that is some of it. But what sparked the little girl, the little wise girl in me, is that after practicing psychology, counseling clients for a number of years, I found that I was so moved by their wisdom, my clients' wisdom, that I started to every now and then write down the things that were taking my breath away that they would say. And then after doing that for a time, I felt moved, like oh my gosh, I want to find some kind of illustration to go with some of these beautiful quotes. Um, but I hadn't drawn in so long. And at first I started just looking up Picasso images. I don't know, I just was playing. And at the time, my younger son, who was much younger then, he's now just graduating from college this month, but he was then maybe 9 or something. He put his hand on my shoulder and gently said, about me looking at the Picasso drawings to go with the writings, he said, "No, Mom, this needs to be your art."
Uh,
And I believed him. So then I went out and got markers and paper and just played with lines until I would find something that felt authentic to the words. And then eventually, with that, I put together a whole first book. And I'll just show it to you. It's called, that one is called All I Did Was Listen. And that is just filled with anonymous client quotes that
well,
took
and
my
I
breath
see
away.
posted in that book. Is that something maybe you would read to us?
I would love to read just a quick excerpt from one of the
Please,
pages.
please
Okay.
do.
And it's like a school
Oh, and
teacher, right?
by
Like,
the way,
here's the drawing.
someone else from that picture we showed is watching our conversation. So,
Oh, hi,
Michael, great
cousin
to have you
Mike.
here.
Hi, sending you love. All right. So I'm so glad you're here, Michael. Okay, so then here's the drawing that goes with this. And I have both a client quote, an anonymous client quote, and then my reflection that I wrote. The client quote is this. I find that I am choosing clothing I like for me more consciously as I begin to listen to my feelings more closely. And this is my reflection. Much gets set in motion when I really hear myself, including an evolution of my closet, or maybe it's a revolution, an unrest for all that doesn't fit, for the uncomfortable, for the fashion of someone else. There comes this time when I want my clothes to match me. I want leggings like little girls have with stripes and flowers because I adore such freedom of being. I want to draw faces and simple houses with fabric markers on skirts because I love to draw. In winter, I want to put on warm layers and relate to each one. Say good morning to the purple and I love you to the orange because I don't want to be removed from any of it, from any of me. I don't want to miss this chance to really dress up.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And if you're here with us live or watching on replay, you can't tell this, but Rachel truly embodies that in how she presents herself to the world. And I think also as we get older, we're more comfortable doing that and not feeling like we have to wear a uniform if, we get to be who we feel we are and in so many
Right.
ways.
Yes, and also at work. I mean, wherever we are. I remember as a psychologist a number of years ago, initially in my first few years, dressing like I thought I was supposed to dress, right? Like in this just nondescript kind of professional, here's my jacket and, kind of just, I don't know. And so nothing's wrong with the jacket. It just, there was nothing remarkable about the colors or patterns, or it just was nondescript. And that's fine if you feel at home in that. For me, I think that was not true me. And so, and also it didn't bring me joy. And so I remember two things. One is that when I got my first pair of glasses, that I remember being in a Dayton's department store, and I just needed an updated prescription. And so I put down my regular old glasses, and I put on these green ones that were just really fun with a little bit of purple. And I couldn't stop giggling in the little, the mirrors like this little in the eyeglass place. And I couldn't stop giggling in it every time I'd look at them. And then I realized I just have to get them. And I don't know that they're professional, but I'm going to just wear them because they bring me so much joy. And the snowball kept going about joy.
I love that.
Yeah.
I had green framework.
Did you?
I did, yes.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh.
So I'm thinking about, what you read us and what you were talking about kind of connects to this whole idea of being your authentic self.
I was thinking the same thing, Beth.
And any thoughts on people, how they can be that way? There's personally and there's also professionally, and how do people balance that?
Right. And I would even add, how do they integrate that so that you're you through and through wherever you go? And so I just think that that joy is the biggest green light and the biggest clue. That to notice when you have responses of joy, and that those come at authentic intersections, so it's when there's something of who you are in that to follow, right? Our joy gives us that feedback. And so the glasses, when I put them on and I couldn't stop giggling in the mirror, I think they were me. They were authentic, It's almost like joy equates it, or at least is a huge green light. I remember going from just a bland calendar, at the time, the paper calendar, to a Mary Engelbright, like sort of bright and cartoony and sweet. And I thought, oh, can I really schedule with my clients with this? Will they take me seriously? But it brought me joy. And the truth was, it was more me.
Yep.
Or activities I do, what I engage in. And joy doesn't have to be loud. It can be quiet, right? Like just
I'm writing that down.
Contentment. Like that, then if I am, my goodness, if I like you said, Beth, being by water, that it just brings me a quiet joy. This is all me. There's something about that, I think.
Absolutely. And
yeah.
And I think that's something that I think a lot of people have actually discovered this past year. It's been a gift. There's always a gift in all the hard times too, right?
In the pain. Absolutely.
Yeah. And is people realizing, wow, I'm spending more time with my family and I like them, hopefully. Obviously people discover the other two.
Right. Or making new boundaries in my family, or whatever it is.
Or just the joy of doing a puzzle.
Oh, yes.
Yes. That we
totally,
like, kind of like what you knew as a kid, things that we found joy in, that we rediscovered.
That's right. And it also is full circle with self-care, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that puzzle is self-care. What brings us joy is self-care. What's authentic is self-care. It's just all related.
Ah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much fun. Oh my.
Aw.
I can't believe we've been talking for almost a half an hour. Thank you to people who have watched us, and
Yes.
we only got a hello comment, but I know that people are taking this in, whether live or on the replay, and finding joy in it or ideas in it. So
Yeah.
that is wonderful. What do we have time for one more reading? Do you want to read us
Okay.
something
Should
else?
we close with one last
Yes,
reading?
yes, please.
Okay, this one I will read from this other book of mine, The Great Green Okayness, A Field Guide to Seeing Your Uncommon Magnificence. By the way, you can find me or these through rachellaz.com.
I'll put that in the comments after.
Okay,
After,
that would be
yeah,
great. Just in case anyone is wondering. I'll do my thing of showing, because I'm an illustrator too. So I'm going to show, there's a whale. Let's see. Can you
I
see
see
it? My
him.
fingers on it. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. This one is called Turn That Whale Flipper. Can you feel your whale flippers extending out of your deepest oceanic self and steering you where you need to go? Of course, rising up and turning is massive. You have to bring along your whole body. Can you feel all that serious blue water that's flowing the other way when you turn? Can you imagine being so determined to move into it? This is what it can feel like when we become caught in waves of sadness and worry. It can feel as if the turn toward more life-giving thinking and nurturing self-care will require heroic strength. Of course, you are right. It will. This is also your water to navigate, dear creature, and you are powerfully built for it.
I love that. Thank you so much. This has been lovely and wonderful, and thank you for being here and joining me this afternoon.
Oh, it's been my honor and pleasure and joy.
Mine too. And thank you everyone who joined us.
Yeah.
And have a wonderful rest of the day. Great. I think this was a fabulous way to end the week and go into the weekend where we can practice some self-care and find joy and do all the things that we've talked about.
Beautiful.
So have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Good to see you, cousin. All right. Bye,
Love
everyone.
you.